Hello, everyone. So, how are we today? Welcome to episode 4 of Know the Happiness How with Winko Chow. I'm your host, Wing Commander Satyendra Chauhan, aka Winko Chow, the resilient coach from Bangalore, India. And today we bring to you in the series an interview series of ours, uh, on the in the office corridors. We are going to talk about the happiness how. And my guest today is Dr. Kalandi Kale. Well, I am excited and I have to be because it's not only that I have a very eminent person with me, but also my own coach and facilitator who's taught me the nuances of coaching. So, there's a long, achievements that she's got, and while I go through that, let me introduce you to Dr. Kalandi Kale. Dr. Kalandi, welcome. Welcome to Know the Happiness How.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful initiative that you have started, Satyendra.
Uh, pleasure's all mine, like I said. And, when I was starting out, I did have a list. And I said, what, better way than have someone who's been there, done that, and a long list of the achievements that you have, the corporate experience for over 25 years. In the coaching space, you have a name, in India, actually, and as a transformation coach, as a facilitator, in the qualification wise, guys, you would be happy to know Dr. Kalindi is a master's in Indology, master's in business administration with specializing in marketing. She also has a doctorate in internal marketing, and that is very interesting. So, what I would start with is to understand as to, what drives you to acquire all these qualifications.
Okay. Uh, I guess that's the one greed that I have left, which I have not been able to overcome.
All right.
Maybe, greed for knowledge, greed for other. In fact, it gives me a rush when I'm learning something new. It does necessarily need not be about management. So you can see that some qualification is related to management, but I'm a master's in Indology. So variety
Yes.
keeps everything spiced up.
And
So yeah,
and
it
among
kind of
other
gives me a rush.
yeah, and among other things, uh, you know, all my viewers and listeners would be happy to know that she is a avid reader, and she's a columnist. She has published papers and written articles. She also has authored a book, and that has a very interesting name. And I would want Dr. Kalandi to tell us about that book.
The turning point.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, the turning point is the story of one of the turning points in my life. People say that they have one turning point. I've had many. So
Mhm.
this is one of the important turning points of my career or my journey so far. This is a story of a corporate or an organization which is on the brink of collapse. A lot of times what happens is organizations become myopic. They look at problems individually and they realize, oh, it's only this much. But when you look at the problems collectively, then you start tracing the link.
Mhm.
My PhD is about internal marketing as an antecedent to customer delight. So it's about organization development. It's about building efficiencies in organization. So while I was doing my PhD, I realized that I was talking more of theory. I was writing the theory. I was writing about the literature review and stuff like that. But this particular doctorate, I actually went through a before-after journey with one of the large organizations, and I realized that nowhere my PhD was capturing the human dynamics that happened during that period. And it was literally like, I was watching episodes of a TV serial or maybe watching a movie. So I felt that somewhere, even that needs to get documented. It's very interesting. How much ever theory you might try to apply in your careers or workplaces, there is an element of that, human behavior which always intrigued me. It still does, trying to understand what it is, where it comes from. So I felt that I needed to write a story about it. I needed to look at that. So my PhD is my thesis plus this book. That makes the whole experience complete. If I have to describe my PhD as an experience rather than a degree. So this books and my thesis, it makes it complete.
All
That's the
right.
way I see.
So, and as you talking about it, I, still remember that, and our association goes back about 3 years, and I remember being your student and you being my facilitator in the journey of starting to become coach. And one day I received this book, you know, and I still remember. I was not a very avid reader, so I still remember the way you had put it across. And as I speak with you, let me tell you, everyone, I've got goosebumps here. So it is, a corporate fable of internal marketing, as she had put it, and which actually brings. And rather, she's applied, real life strategies there, which bring to table the speed, the depth, and the focus which is required if you're pursuing some dreams. So lovely to know that, lovely to read it. And yes, once again, it is really an immense pleasure to have you here. So
Thank you
I'm
so much, Joe,
I'm
for
I'm
having me.
slightly overwhelmed to receive you on my show. And I'm sure that in the next 30 minutes or so, our listeners and viewers are really going to savor some moments of delight. So, uh, to begin with, let us understand your journey in the corporate world when you started off, and how you made your, growth. Although it's a very long journey, I would, request you to bring up the salient points which can help our viewers to understand that yes, while there is a lot of negativity, the data speaks about that negativity, and it is kind of human element to be, grappling with that. So, what are the better ways as a human when you are encountered with a situation, and how do you handle it without making it look very cumbersome?
Honestly, Chow, when I realized that negativity is not there in the corporate, but negativity is within me, inside of me, that was a very revealing moment. Um, I've realized one thing, that if you follow your heart, if you do what you like to do, what you want to do in life, uh, not a single day is gloomy. A lot of times, negativity comes more out of incompetence leading to insecurity.
Hmm.
Somewhere, I feel that I'll fail, or I may not be able to achieve what I want to achieve. And then you keep some targets which are very materialistic,
All
and you
right.
feel that they are too much out of reach, and that leads to insecurity. That kind of builds the negativity inside. That negativity inside actually comes out, and then it, you know accumulates as negativity, negativities of multiple people, and that kind of blasts. So one thing I realized, that incompetence, so lack of knowledge, basically, that's where, my fetish for knowing more and more, it started. So incompetence leading to insecurity, that was one thing which impacted. Ego and greed. I want more, I want this, I want that. People forget to decipher between the need and the want.
Hmm.
You know, um, so ego and greed leading to lack of that abundance mentality. People are like sitting on the information, sitting on the data, sitting on the know-how, not training people adequately, not ensuring. People are only caring about their own success in whatever parameters they say. So, okay, I did have a negative fallout of abundance mentality also. I did have that brush with, because of me having abundance mentality, how it backfired. But to be very honest, that incidence is just one or two incidences. Yeah. Rest of it is, the more I had this abundance mentality, the more came back to me. Sometimes people have only a very short vision tomorrow, a quarterly target or a monthly target or a yearly target, or what am I going to do in next 3 years. So that is where all those expectations, aspirations, frustrations, anger, that starts accumulating. And with so many people in the organization, when that manifests into a collective culture, it
Hmm.
becomes a very, what do you say, potent or venomous culture. So I guess I could smoothly transition from there. I realized probably, I don't know, something in my family upbringing or whatever. I just came to this point pretty soon. And one of the things, well, I said I have multiple turning points. So one of the turning points was 2007.
Hmm.
I've got two masters in marketing,
Hmm.
and I was into marketing as a profession, marketing, sales, project management, event management, PR, advertising, etc. I was in banking and finance, and I was doing sales. So I was doing fantastically well. So if one of the parameters of success is making money, I was making brilliant money. But I realized that I'm not getting a good night's sleep. I'm not happy. And I just came across, those moments of truth which you have in life sometimes, where I saw that how enabling people to become successful actually gave me a lot of contentment. And that became the turning point one, in 2007, when I shifted entirely from marketing to human resources, learning and development. When I made that shift, I will have to mention over here the person who I consider to be a guru. Yeah. So my guru, he says that I never taught you anything, but like a greedy and hungry person, whether he taught me or not, I ensured that I learned something from him. So it's about how what you take from him. So he said when I transitioned, in fact, it was in 2004. I was very remorseful of leaving what I really was enjoying doing at that time. And I went to him and I said, you know what, I'm taking a detour in my career, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm feeling very sad about it, that I have to take this. I have to, that word, very important. And then he told me only one thing. He said, Kalin, it doesn't matter what you do in life. What matters is how many lives you touch. And that was like, oh my God, I said, this is too much. I started thinking about it. So that thing was cooking in my mind from 2004 to 2007 till I hit upon this, okay, this is what is helping me touch lives of people, you know. And well, then I transitioned to human resources. That led me to one more transition of getting into organization development and helping organizations to cope with the changes that they're finding it so hard to. And then again, I transitioned into Indology, and well, yeah, it's been a fun journey and adventure so far.
So if I have to, kind of sum up in what you said in the last about 10 minutes, what my listeners and viewers can take is that you have to be positive. You have to be competent enough. And how do you increase your competency and positivity is by conviction and by increasing your knowledge. Your learnings have to be, right up there. Even if your guru is trying to pass on something very subtly, you should be there to receive it. And like she
Very
said,
true.
yes, if you're ready to learn and disseminate to make lives better for people, and if you are outward oriented, certainly, you would certainly have, as she puts it, peace of mind and good night's sleep. So yes, moving on. Well, it has been really a smooth transition, as you say, but in your long span of about 25 years in the corporate, and now that you're in the coaching stream, and well, let me share it with my viewers and listeners that although she's a organization development and transformation coach, she's an excellent life coach. And as in the coaching, fraternity and community, we put it, after a couple of sessions, everything, moves towards belief system and mindset. So you must have encountered or come across people who were grappling with this, and how do you think you could help them, or they found their own ways to fight this menace which actually emanates all around us, and actually stems from what is inside us sometimes. So what is your take, and how could you make that difference in people around you?
Um, Frankly, I don't make any difference to people.
All right.
People got to make a difference to themselves.
Oh, that's excellent.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I really can't do. I can't do much. I can
Uh-huh.
only share my experiences. I can probably ask them very good questions, which will help them to discover who they are, what they are, and what they are capable of, and what is their potential, rather than ruminating. I would call it rumination. It's like a cow, it
Wow.
takes the cud out and keeps on ruminating over and over.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people dwell in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the sooner you can move on, that's been the mantra. There was this Akbar Birbal story, Akbar Birbal, or there was some wise men in multiple isms. The story is said by so many people, but the story goes this way. There was a wise man to whom the king asked, um, what is that one sentence that can make you happy as well as that can make you sad? And that kind of sticks with me. The person
Mm-hmm.
said that, the wise man said that, this one sentence, this too shall pass.
All right.
When you are sad and you think this too shall pass, suddenly you get in a comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are too happy and elated and ecstatic about what you're doing, and you remind yourself this too shall pass, suddenly it calms you down. Suddenly it kind, yes, happiness is good. I'm not saying happiness is not good, but how long the euphoria should last? How long should you dwell on the past laurels?
Uh-huh.
So, moving on, this too shall pass, and therefore move on. This episode, this event has happened, a new day has arrived. Uh, you have to embrace the new day.
Uh-huh.
So, all I try to do is probably, make people have an awareness about this. This too shall pass.
All right. Oh, that was, actually me going back into my own life and thinking of many episodes. Yet, Kalandi, you would agree that we would want to say that this too shall pass. But like one of my friends put it, whatever happens, happens for the good. And we added up one more extension to that. Yet while it may be happening, you wouldn't be enjoying it. So how do you continue to maintain that, and yes, remember that this too shall pass. So how has it been for you? I'm sure that there would have been times or where somebody close to you, a colleague, an employee, would be grappling with this how of the happiness. So how do you handle that?
Probably this too shall pass is not, it's a state of mind,
Mm-hmm.
to be very honest. It's a state of mind. And that state of mind comes, you don't even realize how it seeps in and how it comes gradually into you. Um, for me, how it worked was, whenever I was in a situation, happy or sad, whenever I was in a situation, I celebrated it if it was happy. I shed a tear or two when it was sad. And then I said, okay, now what is it? What is tomorrow? What does tomorrow have with me? Um, it is probably one thing which I felt which worked for me was I accepted me as a whole person. I
That's
stopped discriminating between
mhm.
this is the professional me, this is the personal me. There is no professional me, there is no personal me. The body, mind, soul of the person remains the same, whether it is in the office or whether it is at home or whether it is picnicking or watching a movie. When you accept yourself as a whole person, then suddenly you get multiple dimensions to think about. And what helped me was, when at office place there was a distress or there was a problem, the whole me looked at what was going well in my, so to say, personal life. Looking at counting the blessings, that helps you,
Yeah.
looking at yourself as a whole person. A lot of times people compartmentalize professional life, personal life,
Mm-hmm.
and then professional life becomes bad. They become so much focused at that they forget that there are some blessings to count at the personal end.
All right.
And sometimes when you're facing turbulence at the personal life, there is something very nice happening at some other end. And thankfully, I'm a person of diverse interests, and there were so many buckets. Um, Once again, I don't even remember who said this to me. Um, the person told me once that I was facing a very difficult situation in my life, personal life,
Mm-hmm.
related to one specific person. And the person said that, hey, you are giving 100% weightage to something that is containing, or that is um, occupying 10% of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that 100% weightage is overshadowing all the 90%. There is one more book by Stephen Covey where he talks about the 90-10, 90%, 10%
Yes,
weightage.
yes,
How
yes,
much weightage do we give to what?
yes.
And the moment I accepted that, okay, my person, me as a person, is so many things, and one thing is not going okay, so that's only one thing, right? There are 10
Uh-huh.
other things that are going fine, and that gives you a lot of energy, that gives you a lot of positive impetus. So probably people should start looking at themselves. People should stop talking about this work life balance. There's no
Mm-hmm.
work life balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's state of mind. Right now in the COVID situation, there are so many people who are complaining that it is now that our work life balance has gone for a toss, because
Mm-hmm.
even when we are having morning tea, there is a call. Even when there is a lunchtime, there is a call. And even if we are at home, we're actually not paying attention to our family at all. We were better off when we were going to office and coming home late.
All
So
right.
work life balance is really a state of mind.
So what I read here is, that it's okay. It's okay to be in that moment. It's okay to cry. It's okay to not feel good at times, and yet, look at yourself as a whole. There is so much. There's so much, happening in your life, which is a blessing, and you've put it so very succinctly that it is, why should that 10% spoil the other 90%? Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's so nicely put across. And well, my other question was on, yes, how do we people, or how do the youngsters cope up, or kind of maintain that resilience in these difficult times? So you've partly touched that, and yes, very nicely you put it across that one has to understand that we are all, we are in wholesome, and if one can try and remember that, that is so very nice. So when I say that, uh, do you follow some kind of routine? Do you follow some habit, or do you have a success mantra which keeps reminding you that you are a whole person? And you have to respect that. You have to count those blessings. What do you do?
Okay. So let me go one step back, since you mentioned the youngsters,
Yeah.
and we were talking about whole person. There's one point which probably I would recommend.
Uh-huh.
These days, people forget to create that multiple facets in life. They put all eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people who are so driven by career that they should have a plan B. Look at
Okay.
what happened in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
People who were more, what do you say, um, diverse in their abilities, they are the ones who survived.
Mm-hmm.
People who had a plan B, they survived and they
Mm-hmm.
thrived. You have to adapt, and therefore you need to have multiple talents. It is not specialization. Gone are the days of specialization where you do one thing and you do one thing only.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a whole person, I said whole person because there are multiple facets.
Mm-hmm.
Create and develop those multiple facets.
Mm-hmm.
Be very aware of that, and that leads me to answering your next question. When there are multiple facets in your life, ensure that nothing gets rusty.
All right.
So I don't have a schedule per se. It's not like morning I do this, evening I do this. But I personally, what has worked for me is I go by a sort of weekly target.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I wouldn't say target, but aspirations. Okay, I go by weekly aspirations where I say, okay, this is how much I need to do about my music. This is how much I need to do about my reading. This is how much I need to do about my listening. I find shortcuts. Like, for example, audiobooks. That has become my amazing shortcut. Whenever I'm doing some, what do you say, mechanical work, cooking, cleaning, etc., which over the period becomes mechanical, I always have an audiobook switched on. So I use my idle time. So smart use of time, yes, that is very important. But have touch upon everything. Every fortnight, I say that okay, I need to sketch something in this 15 days. So even if it is for
It's
15 minutes, I should read. And then there are certain things which automatically fall in the schedule. So certain things which you need to take care of. Are you exercising well? Because I do believe a healthy mind stays in healthy body. So you need to take care of your body. So that falls in a schedule, in a routine
mm-hmm.
that you have to do every day. What you do is immaterial. For about half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour. 1 hour is something which I have to do. So that I ensure that I do. Um, okay, something to get things into a pattern or to get habituated to certain things. I always have a buddy system. So for music, there is a buddy, and it can be old or small. I've got my niece who's way back somewhere in Nasik. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of have a set time with her where
Mm-hmm.
I can learn a little bit of music from her. So that becomes like a schedule.
Okay.
But then I don't overdo it. When you have diverse interests, you also need to keep a balance in how much time you are indulging in what. So yeah, and I divide my time into, very crudely put, I don't say it is a professional or a personal, because there are quite a few professional things where I don't make money. So I divide time into how much time do I need to spend on something which I'll make money for, and how
Mm-hmm.
much time will I spend on items where I don't make money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there are some, so to say, hobby related items where also I make money,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some work management related things where also I make money. So I compartmentalize my work into, time into, um, this much time I'll spend in making money, this much time I'll not spend in making money,
Mm-hmm.
or this much I'll invest in all those activities where I don't make money. I make it very simple for me, I
Okay.
guess.
So, uh, all those watching and listening understand that while you may not have a routine, and it's okay not to have a schedule, yes, you have to, keep doing certain things while work-life balance and, necessarily may not be there, yet there has to be some balance, some sanity maintained. And, a good way is, yes, like she brought out, have a buddy who can, keep egging you sort. And last was the interesting concept which we would like to know a little more, when you said there are a few things that which you do where even you were not making money. So what is that thought behind it? Like I've heard, and as a energy practitioner myself, I believe that energy has to go and come back. So is it something of that sort, or is there another thought?
Ah, thankfully I'm not a very money motivated person by
Okay.
DNA, by my DNA.
Hmm.
But sometimes people make have their whole life around concept of making money. There is so much to life than just money. Money is one thing. There is beauty, there is nature, there is music, there are friends, there is having a great time, there is indulging in food, indulging in reading. There's so many things in life. And I don't know, I don't want to die with regrets. I want to indulge and touch upon everything, do everything, enjoy everything, lead a complete life. So yeah, you need to make money. I'm not saying money is not important, but how much weightage, how much importance do we give? Again, that 90-10 thing comes.
Uh-huh.
That one thing which is 10% of your life, why do you let it overpower the beauty of life that it is? It's a blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to be so. count your blessings, so privileged to have that liberty to make choices. So
That's lovely to hear, that sometimes you just don't think, you do things for the sake of doing it. Like I also believe in being, you know, we are human being. So just believe in being sometimes, don't think too much. So there we have, Kalindi telling us on various aspects of her life and how, she views life. I'm sure we're able to understand and derive certain small finesses wherever we need to. And as we go further in our talk, we would like to, uh, understand with all this goodness that you have, what is your vision? What is your mission? What are your goals going forward? So I shall, touch upon those and in a wee bit. So yes, guys, you all also can grab a cup of tea, coffee, and maybe a glass of water, and we come back and join you real soon. So don't go any far. We shall be back.